When everything fell apart, I found the strength to start over. I'm Lucia, an ordinary woman who, until recently, lived a simple, quiet life in a small town where everyone knows everyone. It's been a little over a year since my life was turned upside down, and I still feel the scars of it all, even as I try to move on. I want to share a little of what I've experienced, not because I'm strong or special, but because I know someone reading this might be broken too, and might need to know they're not alone. Before all this happened, I had a whole world under construction. My husband, Rodrigo, and I were happily expecting our first child. I worked at a small shop downtown. Nothing grand, but it paid the bills and even planned little trips with him. My best friend, Anna, was the person I thought would be with me forever. We understood each other just by looking at each other, knowing each other's secrets. But suddenly, everything changed. I lost my baby. It was a miscarriage, something no one expects, and it hit me like a punch in the gut. I still remember the physical pain I felt, that mixture of intense cramping and an emptiness in my chest that felt like it wanted to swallow me whole. When I finally managed to get out of bed, I thought I would find comfort in Anna's arms, as always, but she was different. She told me I shouldn't go to her baby shower because I brought negative energy. I felt a deep blow, not only from the loss, but from being rejected like that, precisely by the person I thought was my best friend. It was as if that moment threw me out of everything I knew. I began to feel invisible, as if I didn't even deserve her presence. I tried to speak, to understand what was happening, but Anna only backed away, avoiding my eyes, as if I were a threat. With each attempt, she pushed me further away, the pain of loss mixed with the pain of rejection, and I didn't know how to deal with both. Sometimes, in the silence of my room, I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. In the midst of this turmoil, I grew attached to my cousin Juliana. We've always been close, though not as close as Anna and I. Juliana was pregnant too, and she seemed to understand what I was going through, even though her pregnancy was complicated. She welcomed me, giving me strength when I didn't even know I still had it. We decided together to plan her daughter's baby shower, a simple party that meant a lot to us. It was the first time in a long time that I felt like I could dream again, even if just a little. Juliana was my safe haven, my partner in this rebuilding process that I still didn't know how to do properly. But Anna's shadow didn't disappear. When I decided to tell her I was pregnant again, I thought maybe I could rekindle something, or at least that she'd be human enough to listen to me without judging me. I was sorely mistaken. Her reaction was cold, almost cruel. It seemed my rebirth bothered her, and she used that to hurt me again. I began to realize that Anna wasn't just a selfish friend, but a manipulator. She made everyone in the family believe distorted versions of me, sowed doubts, and created a distance that seemed impossible to bridge. I felt alone in a world that had until then been my refuge. Rodrigo tried to protect me, but the pressure from his family was intense. I could see in his eyes the conflict between his love for me and the confusion it all caused. Some days it seemed he was tired too, and that hurt as much as Anna's rejection. For a long time, I let myself drown in sadness. I would leave the house only to go to work and return to a silence that seemed to scream in my head. I was afraid I couldn't move on, that I wasn't strong enough to face all this. Anger and the urge to give up visited me more often than I would have liked. One night, however, everything changed. I was sitting on the porch, gazing at the stars, when I realized that, despite the pain, I was still breathing. And breathing was the first step. It was a simple yet powerful moment when I decided I wouldn't let anyone, not even sadness, destroy me. From then on, I began seeking help. I spoke to Juliana, Rodrigo, even Aunt Neda, who, despite her own struggles, tried to give me advice I didn't always want to hear, but which I needed deep down. Each conversation was a step out of the hole. It wasn't easy. I made a lot of mistakes. I tried to forgive Anna too soon. I put too much pressure on myself. I distanced myself from people who were good for me. But I also got it right. I learned to listen to my body, to talk about how I felt, to not blame myself for the loss of the baby or for other people's choices. Little by little, I began rebuilding my life. The pregnancy was still complicated, but now I had a real support network. I discovered that true love doesn't hurt, and that sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the one we're born into. Today, I try to look at myself in the mirror with more kindness and believe that I can still be happy, even if the path is bumpy. I still remember how difficult it was to wake up every day with a weight on my chest, this mixture of longing, fear, and doubt. The first few months after the loss were the worst. It felt like the world had stopped just for me to grieve. I avoided mirrors because I didn't like what I saw. A tired woman with dark circles under my eyes, whom I sometimes didn't even recognize. But slowly, I learned that looking at myself harshly wasn't helpful, and that I needed to be my own ally. Rodrigo was crucial to this process, even with the challenges we faced. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but he was there, firm, trying to hold me when I wanted to give in to despair. We fought a lot, of course, arguing about everything, about what to do, about family, about the future, but amidst all the confusion, he was the only one who truly saw me without judgment. Juliana was also a huge support. Her pregnancy wasn't easy, but she never left me alone. I know she had her own fantasies and fears, but she always made time to be with me, to listen to my crises, to laugh at the silly things I tried to tell so as not to seem so broken. It was a friendship that saved my sanity. Aunt Naid, on the other hand, despite seeming harsh at times, showed me that family is full of imperfections, and that not everyone will always be there for us the way we'd like. She taught me that life is just like that we have to learn to deal with the people we love, even when they disappoint us. It was a painful but liberating learning experience. Anna, on the other hand, remained a shadow. I wanted to believe things could get better, but I realized that some people simply choose not to change. She chose to keep me at a distance, spreading lies and creating barriers. It hurt me deeply, but over time, I understood it wasn't my fault. I couldn't control her selfishness. One of the hardest moments was when Juliana's baby shower took place. It was a celebration I really wanted to attend, but her presence among the family made me uncomfortable. I saw averted glances, whispers. Still, I clung to those few people who were truly there for me, and I tried to be happy that day, despite everything. During pregnancy, I faced many fears. Each doctor's appointment was a mix of hope and anxiety, as if I were walking a tightrope, ready to fall at any moment. The body that had already suffered so much was now a kind of battlefield, and I felt each symptom as a warning, each contraction as a test of my strength. In those moments, loneliness was overwhelming. It wasn't just Anna's absence. It was also the fear that history would repeat itself, that I might lose another child. The nights were long, and I cried silently, knowing I couldn't break down in front of Rodrigo or Juliana. I didn't want to scare anyone else. The support from Fabiano, an old friend, was unexpected but incredibly important. He wasn't part of my family or my closest circle, but he always had a kind word, a piece of advice, or a way to make me laugh when I thought I was about to break down. Sometimes help comes from where we least expect it, and that was a valuable lesson. The journey wasn't a straight line. I had relapses, days when sadness overwhelmed me and there seemed no way out. I even thought it might be easier to give up, disappear, erase myself, but something inside me always screamed that I had to fight, for myself, for Rodrigo, for that baby I still carried in my womb and in my heart. I allowed myself to feel, without blaming myself. The pain still exists, and I think it will always exist. But today, it's a part of me, not the master of my story. I cry, yes, but I also laugh, and that's what keeps me alive. I relearned how to take care of myself, to put myself first, without guilt or shame. Rodrigo's love was an anchor. He wasn't perfect, but he was real. Together, we learned to build a safe home, where we could make mistakes, support each other, and grow. We still face the ghosts of Anna and her family, but now with greater strength, knowing we don't need to please or prove anything to those who don't care about us. Today, when I think of that woman who fell apart, I feel proud of how far I've come. The rebuilding wasn't just physical, it was emotional, mental, and spiritual. I discovered a strength I didn't even know existed, and this gives me hope for the future, for everything I still want to experience. I want to leave. This message to anyone reading this: suffering doesn't have to be the end. We can reinvent ourselves, find light even in the darkness. I know the pain of loss and betrayal cuts deep, but I also know it can be a catalyst for a truer, more authentic life. If you're going through something similar, know that you're not alone. Allow yourself to feel, seek help, make mistakes, and get things right. Overcoming adversity isn't a magic trick. It's a daily process, made up of small steps and a lot of courage. And believe me, Even when all seems lost, there's still a way.